morning. Oh my gosh, I am over the moon excited to have one of my dearest friends here with me. I still get caught up in that moment where I say one of my dearest friends. And
yes, yes, I understand that.
and I look at your name and I am overcome with tears of Brenda's from my past, my present, and my future, because I meet Brenda's in the most amazing places. And then I'm like, your name is what?
Yes, I remember that. I thought I was going to have to change my name there for a while.
But it's a beautiful name. And I know because of a connection that I made with Spirit, and they told me that there would be between 10 and 12 Brendas who would come into my life. And I chose them to help me unravel my life.
Yeah.
And some come and they pull the plug on the yarn. And I'm like,
Yes.
no, you have to leave. And then there's those that don't leave, like you. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that you stayed the course through all of my madness, so that I could become one of the sisters in Sacred Hearts Rising. And
it was definitely a crazy time, that's for sure.
oh my gosh, right? And here we are on the dawn of the horizon of 2023.
Done 2022.
But 2023 is when Sacred Hearts Rising 4 is coming out.
2 next year.
Yeah.
This is 21.
This is 21.
Yeah, it's coming out in 22.
22. Oh, see, I'm fast forwarding to 23 already because
Yeah, that's going to age me. Just okay. I like time going by, but not that bloody fast, Nancy.
oh, we'll look back on this and laugh because it'll be like, she said what? It's out there. It's out there. She said it.
I mean, I actually had to look at my calendar down here on my computer. Am I wrong? What the hell's going on here? So yeah.
Hey, maybe something's coming out that we don't even know about.
Oh, I'm sure there is. I am very sure there is.
And that's the beauty of the unknown and the uncertain, because that's where the gift of grace is.
Yes.
Because the grace is what's pulling me forward, even though I'm afraid.
I think we're all afraid in some aspect of, stepping forward into the unknown. Is exciting, but yet it's, what the heck is what's in store for me next? Yeah. But you have to look at it positively and go, whatever it is, it's gonna be great.
Well, because when you look back on your past and you say, I can't do this, you're doing it, and you're doing it now, and you've done it before. So remember all of the coping skills that you used. They served you well. Now just flip that biscuit and see which side you need to fry.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have skills from when we went through the most terrible tragedies in our lives.
Oh, yes.
And they got us on the horse.
They did.
Even though we got bucked off.
Many times.
Many times. And
back on.
It is incredible, the myths about the battered woman. And I want to read to you one that blew my mind. So the battered woman syndrome affects only a small percentage of the population. That's a myth. Like rape, the battering of American women and Americas, encompassing
all women,
Canada and all women, is a seriously unreported crime. Coercive abuse is not yet a crime. So legislation was proposed in 2021 that would create a new crime in Canada called coercive control. It's defined as behavior by a current or former partner or family member that causes the victim to fear they will be physically harmed, causes their mental health to decline, or causes the victim such alarm or distress that there is a substantial adverse effect on their day-to-day activities, such as work, school, or the ability to take care of children. Unfortunately, the House of Commons Justice Committee tabled the report in Parliament, recommending a national task force study adding coercive control to the criminal code and report to the Justice Minister within a year.
Why don't they just ask women?
1 year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What will happen in our world right now during the pandemic where women are kept captive by their abuser?
It's insane. I mean, this pandemic has opened up the door for abusers to just go absolutely crazy with their, I mean, there are women now that have been virtually locked in their homes, only being able to get out to go get groceries, and you know, their events are timed, you know, they're watched and things like that. And the pandemic has brought this more forward for those women that they can't even get out of the houses now. Oh, you can order and we'll deliver. We'll order, and that is great. That is all great for people who aren't being held captive by their abusers. And I think this has created such a, if I can use the word, shitstorm.
Oh, it's
People.
shitstorm is an understatement.
Yeah, for people who are in a situation of being in an abusive relationship, this has not helped. All of the regulations and all of those restrictions and all of the lockdowns, this has not helped.
Well, and what takes a relationship, an abusive relationship, into the next stage of battery is if you're abused once,
Yeah,
you're in an abusive relationship.
mhm,
If you
Only takes
enter
once.
the cycle again,
mhm,
you are in a battered relationship
Yeah,
twice. And
Yeah.
there are those of us, and I'm just talking about the two of us on the screen, who have gone back time and time and time and time again, or are still in part of that massive, massive hold, because
Yeah.
it can take so long to recover the finances
mhm,
after you leave. And if you don't leave in a way where you are educated about the criminal aspect of divorce, and what I mean by the criminal aspect of divorce is if you don't do certain things within a certain time period, that door's shut,
mhm,
open it up again.
Yeah, like it is disheartening and sad
Yeah.
that in this day and age, in this century, that this phenomenon is still going on. And I mean, unfortunately, as long as man is alive, it is going to go on, because you're never going to stomp it out, because it grows. You breed it, let's put it that way. You know, your children live in a domestic violent home. They either become domestic violent themselves, or they become a victim because they don't know which way to go. I mean, you teach your children what they learn, you just don't know what it is. So, you know, until it starts becoming more illegal to entrap a person, whether it's mind, body, doesn't matter, then this is going to continue on. And the pandemic has created such a cesspool of this to grow more. Mental illness is on the rise, domestic violence is on the rise, and that's only what is reported. What is not reported? I mean, remember I think it was Chicago, the guy that stole those young women and had them locked in cells in his basement. And here was 4 women, I think it was 4 women, and that had children with this man. And he repeatedly raped them, but they were literally locked in jail cells in a nice neighborhood where nobody paid any attention until, one woman was able to go out and get groceries or whatever it was. I can't remember the full story, but she was able to get the help. Not the neighbors on either side, not the neighbors across the street. She was able to get up because he decided that he could trust her to go get whatever it was that she wanted for the other women. That's the only way they got out. And they were there for years.
Her courage and her opportunity. And that's whereby when we are in an abusive, battered relationship, it's about putting your ducks in a row, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, so that you can birth the escape.
Yeah. I mean, I look at after my divorce, my ex went just literally off the deep end. I mean, he was on the cusp while we were married, but I really, truly didn't understand how far he would go. And after he was found dead in his place that he rented, I mean, there was journals and documents that he was building a quiet room, a silent room, like the Silence of the Lambs. Like he was building a dungeon in this basement that was going to be soundproof. And after he had this dungeon built, he had planned on getting me abducted off of the street. It's okay. And then I was going to go into this dungeon, and it was going to be built so that if somebody went down there, they wouldn't know that it existed.
Like one of those trap doors.
Yeah, like the trap doors. So it was going to have a false wall in front of it. It was going to have all of that sort of stuff. And that's where I was going to end up, in this dungeon with all of the sexual paraphernalia and things that he was, wanting to, So I think to myself, if he would have been successful, who would have found me?
Yes.
Who would have found me? So how many other people are out there that have gone missing, that are in the same situation? Because this idea was not born in his brain. This idea, he's seen it somewhere.
Yes.
He's seen it somewhere. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not saying that he didn't have actually he didn't have a thought, but anyway, we're not going to go there.
No, right? Because if you go deep into the caverns of the possibility of what could have happened to you, the fear comes up and it takes control. And I think that's where, when we, and we meaning the abusive population, the abused population of the world, we struggle within the cycle of abuse because of the blame and the shame. And they come in the words of people who don't know what they're saying. And what I mean by that is a simple declaration of shaming. I don't know how you put up with all of this.
Oh, yes. And I mean, this is a person who, after I found out when he died that, he had hired somebody to kill me, hire somebody to abduct me, this sort of things, I kept going back and thinking, oh yeah, I could see the pattern coming. And then I really had a hard time with it. So I actually left the house because I was at my parents', and my dad said to me, oh, it can't be that bad. And I stopped in my tracks. And I went, oh my God. And I had to leave the house, and I went out into the field. Yeah. And I walked and finally I went behind one of the big round bales, and I just sat down where nobody could see me. And I can't say that I cried, but I really went into, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like,
Shock.
I was in shock. And probably about an hour later, my son-in-law came looking for me, and he found me, and he says, let's go back to the house. And I said, I really don't, just leave me alone. And, because he was an ex, I mean, there was victims assistance for our daughters to go through, and they were able to get into victim assistance. And I phoned them and I said, because I needed help. Is there any resources? I need to figure out how to process this. No, you're an ex-wife. There's no resources for you. We have resources for your children, but we do not have anything for you. So, good luck. Good luck. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? I was just told that the man that I had been married to, that I had had children with, was either going to have me abducted and put in a dungeon. And if that didn't work, he had hired somebody to kill me. Like, how do you process that while you are in shock?
Well, and then you go to people of authority and you ask for help, and they are limited by the laws that have been created over and over and over again. And I mean, I've worked with so many women who are in that coercion, the trap of the threat, where nothing has happened yet. And you go to the police, you report that, and they cannot help you until you have a mark on your body.
Yep, that's exactly it.
But the mark can be here, and then you are afraid to speak and to voice.
Yeah.
Because you have children at home. And you get back into that should, you should really put some money aside for the day you leave.
Yeah.
More shame, a double-sided sword statement. You should equal shame.
Oh yeah. What you should do. I know I did take steps, because I told them 2 years prior to leaving. I says, when the girls graduate, I am out of here. And I says, I will never talk about this again, because I mean, he was having affairs and things like that. And now I had proof that he was having affairs, because without proof, oh, you're making it up. It's not really real. They really work on your brain. So
absolutely. The narco-socio.
Oh yeah, huge.
I mean, it's such a big character in our stories. And what is missing from the offer is you have a safe place. I will offer you help to find financial assistance. It doesn't mean that we have to go into the codependency, because Lord knows that there isn't enough money to offer from our mutual finances, all the women that we know who need it.
Yeah.
But we can help people find resources.
Yes.
Through the beauty of what has been created through Sacred Hearts Rising.
Yeah, it's and I mean, and that's part of why Sacred Hearts is subconsciously came to pass, is because there was nothing. I mean, I had to plan 2 years in advance. I had to have a job, and I had to not ever mention again that I was leaving in 2 years, so that he would forget about it, so that then I could use his ego against him and get out in a way that he thought it was his idea, that I should move, and do this and do that. Well, he moved here, and it was all this big ego driven thing for him. And I just knew that take these steps, take these steps, take these steps, take these steps. And I mean, was it clean and free and easy? No, it sure the hell wasn't. You know,
No, no, the obstacles and the challenges are mass, but
they're massive.
the beauty on the other side is
Yes.
something that I hold on to in my life now. I can say I am free from the
Yes.
shackles that once bound me. I'm still working through the shadows of the shackles, and I will be for many, many moons.
Yeah.
I'll stay with moons because it's 28 days and a lot can happen in 28 days.
Yeah.
But the courage to heal means finding a trusted companion who has the wisdom. And that's where you and I have two different decades, whereby my wisdom at 52 is different than your wisdom.
Yeah. My wisdom at 52 was, I'm thinking, okay, I'm sitting thinking, oh my God. My wisdom at 52 and yours is different. We'll just leave it at that. But I mean, it does take a while for it to run its course through your body. I mean, I'm happy to say that all of that shitstorm is behind me, and I don't think about it anymore. I can certainly talk about it, not have any charges. I can do all of that sort of stuff, and that is in itself a blessing.
Well, and that's where all the blessings come from. I know now as a woman of justice, I just love that. I like that I actually have title in a league of justice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, a league of what? I'm like, a league of ladies who can help connect you with affordable legal help.
Yes.
What's affordable? I'm like, well, a monthly enrollment fee that gives you 50% savings. But I can't afford that. We can work through that thought to help you budget your bananas. Because if you can budget your bananas, and what I mean by budget bananas is you bought 12 this week. Well, chances are that 6 of them will go into your freezer because you won't be able to eat them all. So let's start looking at your finances of what you've got, and let's look at the skills that you've got to pay the bills. Because if you've got 2 needles and you can knit, you got an oven that you can bake with. You've got a bag that you can collect bottles with.
Yes.
You got the skills to pay the bills, sunshine. And I will help you figure that shit storm out. Because I had to figure that one out myself too.
Oh, you do. You do. I always equate it to, you take a glass jar and you fill it full of rocks, and you fill up full of big rocks. Well, you don't have very many big rocks in there, but you have all of this space. So then you start filling it with pebbles.
Yes.
And then, okay, yeah, filled it up, but there's still space. Then you take in some sand and you kind of throw in some sand, but there's still space in there. Then you put in water.
Yes.
Now your jar is full. You have used every avenue available to you, every ounce that is available to you to use your resources. It's amazing where you can find money where you don't know you can find money. And I do automatic setups. I do automatic, take it out of my bank account. I don't want to see it, and put it, earmark it to here, 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 here. And, if you don't see it, you don't miss it.
Well, and because when I was in my abusive relationship and I had to learn how to use the resources that I had in the most seemingly wicked ways, whereby I would look at the groceries I had in front of me, realize that I had not eaten some of that food. I still had the bill, and I would go back and return some food to buy the things that I needed, like the diapers. That gave me a way to manage the resources that were very, very limited, so that I could go return that extra bottle of Crown Royal and get cash.
Yeah.
It
I,
wasn't my Crown Royal.
yeah. Well, and the thing is, you know, when I was a waitress, I would, yeah, I made my salary, but my tips were sacred. I mean, he never knew about my tip money. So
Yeah.
I had a separate little bank account away where all of my tip money went and things like that. So, you know, you have to be very inventive. And the minute he found out that I had money, oh my God, it was gone like that. So,
And my money, I couldn't even put into my bank account. I had to put it in an envelope that I gave to a friend.
yeah, see, mine, after that, mine stayed in my wallet. So there'd be times that I'd be walking around with, you know, $300 to $1,000. And then I started changing those 10s and 20s and 5s into $100 bills.
Yes.
Because you won't spend you don't want to break $100 bill. But if you have, you know, a bunch of 5s sitting there, a bunch of 10s, a bunch of 20s, you'll pull those out. Oh, it's not that bad. It's not. So, so then to this day, I still do it. If I have to cash a check, give me $100 bills. And at one time, I think I was walking around, I had $3,000 in my wallet.
Yeah.
You know, and it was all in $100 bills, you know, and psychologically.
One bill. And when you can take the difference between a want and a need, and you can break that down, because if you need to escape, and I mean escape, then when you can start viewing every single purchase so that you can start doing things like educating yourself, because if you don't have the skills, and education is so valuable. And when I went through my years and years and years in an abusive relationship, I educated myself. I mean, I didn't finish everything because I couldn't. My life didn't avail me the time. But I mean, I got 3 years into a creative writing degree before my pen hit the page for Sacred Hearts when I worked with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did where did all this writing come from? I'm like, oh my God, I forgot. Because that part of my life was robbed from me through abuse.
Yeah, I went in, and when the girls were first born, I wanted to go back to school to get my Bachelor of Science. I was into horticulture and things like that. So I did everything humanly possible online.
Yes.
Went to the Guelph University and did everything online. Did that for 2 years, and then I could go to NATE here. I think it was NATE at the time, and I could transfer, and I could do my last 2 years for my bachelor's. And the girls were now a little bit older, but he refused to let me go, because if I went for 2 years, that meant that I was out of his control. The girls were with me. That meant that they were out of his mother's control and his control. And that just pissed me off to no end. After 2 years, and him saying, yeah, well, when it comes time, you know, to be slammed, that I couldn't finish my degree. That was just another nail in the proverbial coffin, as you want to call it, that I went, you know, like this, I don't know how this is going to end, but this is going to end.
And
somehow.
that's what it is. It's that hair string of, I don't know how this is going to end, but it's going to end. And there are parts of you that you need to build upon. So for me, that was psychology. I went in and I studied psychology because I needed to understand if I was crazy or not, because I was told that I was crazy. And I needed to know that I wasn't crazy. So
shit, I already knew I was crazy, Nancy.
Well, I mean, I was told that I was. So I had to make sure that I wasn't.
Well, I got to the point where, you know, I was told that I was lazy, I was worthless, I was useless, I was this, I was that, I was a terrible mother, I was a terrible wife. And, you know, everything was always, you're terrible at this, you're terrible at that. And I got to the point where, well, who really gives a flying fuck? You know, I need to do this for me, and I need to do it for my kids. And I don't care what anybody else says
Mm.
about me.
Hmm.
If it's true, it's true. If it's not true, it's not true. But I didn't have the tools in my toolbox to say, you know, screw you in the boat you came over on. Pardon my swearing here, but anyway.
Yay. You know what? This isn't going on the children's channel.
There you go. And I thought I had to save myself for whatever myself was, whatever pieces of myself that was left, whether they were useless and no, no confidence, which I had zero for confidence, and all of that sort of stuff. It was me, the pieces of me I had to put in a little box and put together and say, okay, let's take all of this and let's try to figure out how to go forward. And through all of that, and when I left him the first time, and he stopped the Greyhound bus in the middle of the highway and pulled me off by my hair, and nobody stopped and said anything, that was another one that says, okay, you need to now start becoming determined. And I already was, but I had to become brave, and I had to become resilient more than what I already was, because I think I was pretty resilient by this time. And I had to become laser focused on the end game, not knowing what the end game was going to look like. I had to focus on the end game of all of this, and where that end game was going to come. But I had to start making steps and walk toward the end game, even though I couldn't see it.
Yeah. Well, and you know, freedom,
Yes.
there's a song about it. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
Yep.
And when you understand that the thing that you're losing is you, and the thing that you're losing is your future for your children, and the thing that you are willing to sacrifice if you do not do something is that entire future. It may seem scary, but I mean, I'm here and you're here.
Yep.
And there are hundreds of us within our circles. Multiply that exponentially by 10, and there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of women who are
insane
there waiting.
It's insane. It's really, really insane, and
we're on the other side. We're on the other side. And that is what is powerful with the medium of the message within the battered woman syndrome, is that even though you're afraid, even though you don't know what to do, when you simply reach out and say, I'm fucked up and I need help.
Yeah. You have to want it. I mean, that's the big thing is, as the old saying goes, you can't lead a horse to water and make him drink. You can lead a horse to water, but that's about it. It's the same with getting out of abusive relationships. You have to get to the point where, come hell or high water, you are getting out of this relationship. You have to want it. You have to be able to step outside of your fear, outside of your comfort zone, outside of everything that you've known, into that abyss of the unknown in order to get to the other side. And if you're not willing to do that, there's nobody, and there's no finances, there's no resources, there's nothing in the world that is going to help you. Courage. Unless you help yourself.
Courage. I can be courageous. I must be courageous. And I will be courageous within the beauty of just for today.
Yep.
Just for today, I am willing to make a call. Just for today, I am willing to care for myself by taking a shower.
One baby step at a time.
Big baby steps, and they're big. A shower, lipstick, anything that will remind you of how beautiful you felt before.
The beauty of your soul. And we often look in the mirror and we find faults with ourselves because we let all of those other words that have been told to us by other people color our image. So we look in the mirror and we see that, oh, you're a terrible mother, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, or you can't do this. And I encourage women to look in the mirror and look into your soul, where you will see that beautiful person that is in there, that is wanting to come out. But you just have to shed all of the crap from everybody else. You know, the old saying, I love these old sayings, you know, you can throw mud against the fence to see if it sticks. I mean, when we were kids, we used to throw mud and you know, turds against the fence to see, you know, what was going to stick, and some would stick and some would not. Well, it's the same way, you know, some of this stuff has stuck to you and you just need to wash it off. Look at yourself in a different light, not somebody else's. Look at yourself through your own eyes. Don't look at your imperfections. Just look into your eyes in that mirror and see that soul.
I remember when I carried a compact in my purse when I was doing mirror work a long time ago. And I would open up the mirror and I started with the words I like, long before I could say the words I love.
Yep.
I like, and I dug deep. I like, and then I would struggle. I like, and I would just like, oh my gosh, what is it that I like about myself?
Yeah, it's
I
hard
like,
to find it in the
I like,
beginning.
I like that I like that I'm a mom. Like, does that work? Yes.
Yeah.
I like that I am a friend. I love that I am willing to be a good friend. And it was just finding what worked for me in that minute, in that moment.
And
Moment,
then it expanded, didn't it?
moment by moment, breath by breath. And I mean, I had the most amazing people in my life. I will always remember the day that my sister, by design, pulled me out of my comfort zone and brought me to a gym to work out where I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And she was resilient. She kept on encouraging me in a very forceful, wonderful friend way. I will always be grateful for that.
Yeah. And that's just it. You know, you have friends. And for me, I didn't. I didn't have any friends. And that sounds absolutely ludicrous. You must know people. I knew people, but I had no friends. And when I lived in the community that we lived in, I literally we had friends that we had together. I didn't have any of my own friends, you know, friends that I could ask for help. Yeah. So when I left, like I came to a strange town and I literally started my life over with 0 friends.
There's a beauty to beginning again. There's a beauty to being in a community where you are amongst strangers, where you can find that sacred connection with somebody, because it's within the quiet moments where you can see eye to eye, where you know this person, they have something I don't want. Maybe it is what seems to be happiness, but I feel connection to them here. And I think that they could help me. And asking, sometimes you have to ask one who says no, and then 2 or 3 to find that one person. But if you keep asking, you will find someone to help you.
Yeah, you will. And for me, I found a doctor, and I said to the doctor, I says, you know, I need some help here because I think I'm going crazy, you know, and then she sent me on to somebody. But another thing about the beauty of going someplace where nobody knows you is you leave all of the shit that's been thrown against the fence behind. and
It's
you
still
can
in here. It's still
become,
in here, but
it's still in here, but now you can become the person that you truly are on the inside without somebody jamming something down your throat that's not true.
yes, you can become the hero. You can become the hero in your story. You can become the champion. You can become all those things, because this whole series of YouTube videos is called The Battered Beauty, because
Mhm.
every person that I'm interviewing who's gone through battery,
Yeah.
who came out the other side, they had a lot of shit thrown at them. They were called every name in the book.
Oh, yes.
Every
Oh,
name.
yes.
I mean, the chapter that I've got coming out before Sacred Hearts Rising is called Can't Understand Normal Thinking. I took an acronym
Mhm.
for a word that was used against me and turned it around, because my abuser couldn't understand my thinking, and my thinking was normal, but
Yeah.
it was abnormal in the relationship that I was in.
Yeah.
So as you come full circle to understand that your abuser is simply a broken version of the best part of themselves, you don't need to rescue them. You need
No.
to rescue you and get out of that codependency.
Yeah. You know, my marriage wasn't physically abusive, which was kind of interesting because I said to him just before we got married, I says, you ever hit me, it'll be the last time you ever do. But I didn't equate the abuse to mental and emotional abuse. So he never laid a hand on me. But boy, I'm telling you, he used everything in the book for mental and emotional abuse. And so did his mother, you know,
Wow.
and the two of them, it was like,
And that's what happens. That's what happens. And there is a sad, sad pattern within that story where the son and the mother
oh
often
God.
team up against the woman. And I've seen it
Yeah.
repeatedly. I still see it now working with the clients that I'm blessed to work with.
Yeah.
Because as a mother of 4 sons,
Mhm.
I know how fierce my love is for my sons and how I've used it in ways that I'm like, wow, that didn't serve them.
Yeah.
And now I'm learning to be a better mother, a better version of myself. When I learned how to allow my sons to heal by letting them so I could heal me, my whole world,
Yeah. It changes.
it changed. My whole world changed, and my boys are incredibly resilient. I mean, I have nothing but proud words to speak of them.
Yeah. Like it is crazy the bond that um, mothers and sons have. But for me, it was even beyond the grave. You know, I mean, my ex died in September, his mother died in January, and they became connected on the other side to the point where both of them for 14 years haunted, you know. And, and I mean, and I know that sounds really kind of crazy for some
Oh
people,
no.
but
Well, for some people, I remember when I was in my kitchen making a coffee, and I started hearing a voice, and I'm like, there's no possible way.
yeah,
There's no possible way. So I disregarded it, and I kept on doing that over and over and over again until I checked, because coming from an accounting background, I check and double check with
yeah,
spirit. Um, I am so stubborn. And when I confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt that the voice that was speaking to me, the angel who was speaking to me, was the man that raped me, and
yeah,
that he had crossed over to the other side, and that he is now one of my guides. I'm like, okay, shit's changing.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to say that when I was told, because I mean, things happened for a long time. Like, you know, it was 14 years. And I could never figure out what the hell is going on. Like, why do I feel this way? Why do I da 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 da? And then when it came out, you know, with a clearing that him and his mother had been here and they've been, you know, attacking the horses and attacking our daughters and attacking me and attacking, but, you know, what a shitstorm that became because, you know, yeah, I left him in real life.
Yeah.
Now I have to, you know, extract him out of my life again as he's an earthbound because he never did cross over. And to this day, I don't think he's crossed over. He's kind of locked up in a little cylinder where he can't get to me. But, you know, but understanding that, you know, you're a shit in life, you're a shit in death. You
Well,
don't change.
I really truly believe that somehow I mean, I'm here on this earth. I can't
They
understand
can
how.
go to, yeah, they can have lessons on the other side to
Oh, most
change
definitely.
themselves to become better
But
if
they
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 choose.
change us. They change us through showing up as they were. Because if an abuser who's dead shows
Mhm.
up as this shining, sparkly happiness,
Oh,
you
yeah,
recognize him.
yeah,
You'd be like, "Who are you?"
yeah. I think if you have an abuser that is crossed over into spirit world, then yes, they show themselves as to who they are so that you recognize them. And then, but if they haven't crossed over and they're still in earthbound, they're still a shit.
There's different dimensions. There
Yeah,
is definitely
there's definitely different dimensions. And
my
for
my abuser, the one I'm talking about with my rape, he was incarcerated
yeah,
for decades because he did much more harm to others than he did to me. So he was in a maximum security institution
yeah,
from when I was a teenager till when he crossed over just in the last little spin around the sun year kind of
yeah.
deal. So
He probably learned some things while he was incarcerated.
oh, absolutely. There are so many people that can learn, and there's so many
Yeah,
people that don't, and there's so many experiences
yeah.
that the kaleidoscope of possibility is beautiful once you choose
Mhm.
your healing. It's a beautiful experience of bullshit and beauty. And I mean, there's both sides of the coin every single day.
Yeah, and I think how you pass away has a lot to do with, especially for you. I mean, mine passed away from erotic asphyxiation, wearing women's lingerie and high heel stilettos. So, you know, put that in your mind. But anyway,
It's
um,
there.
you know, it's there. So I mean, he dies in the process of doing the deed that he wanted to do at the time.
Yeah.
So
Which
he really didn't
may have
know.
been a pleasurable experience.
Well, yeah, until you die, you know, and you're still kind of in anyway. Uh,
Oops, I did it again.
there's
Oh,
times where,
it's done.
yeah. So now he's dead, and he doesn't realize that he just hung himself
Yeah.
accidentally. You know, so he's for me, he was stuck in that pattern of I'm in control. I'm the like, you know, I can do whatever I want. Because his biggest mantra while he was alive was, I need to find your address because I'm going to shoot you. And then here he dies, and he doesn't cross over because he doesn't know that he died. And now he has almost immediate access to me.
It's beyond the understanding, and because you and I both have
Yeah.
the gift of the clairs, and by the clairs I mean there's clairaudient, there's clairvoyance, there's so many clairs, and I mean that's a whole different
Yeah.
discussion. The parallel, the triangle, that's what spirit's showing me between you, me, and Joe is such a beautiful, beautiful relationship because Joe Dibley was threatened,
Yeah, she was in witness protection for years and years and
right?
years.
In years and years and years. And that's what can happen with somebody who, and I think that what happens when an abuser threatens you with harm from others,
Mhm.
it just snowballs because it's not just one. It's that unknown possibility of how many.
Yeah,
It can be terrifying.
yeah.
But when you continue to work on yourself, even though you're afraid, even though, when I
Even
went
though.
in and learned Reiki for the third time, because when I learned Reiki, I didn't do me. I went
Mhm.
in and I healed everybody else because I was still in the codependent pattern. When
Yeah,
I went in the third time's a charm in many things in my life,
yeah.
and I had to work on myself for 28 days.
Mhm.
I mean, I called my dear friend Hazel, Witch Hazel, because I didn't like her. I called many of you witches and bitches because you made me do things that I didn't want to do.
Oh yeah, I know.
I
You
mean,
know.
B for Brenda, and yeah, I called you a bitch. I mean, oh my
Yeah.
God, I couldn't believe how far I had to dig to learn how to write my truth. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, what a gift. And the gift of writing with Sacred Hearts. I mean, I I want I want 6 more volumes. I'm sorry, but I do. Um I want the magic number 10, Brenda. I want 10 Sacred Hearts Rise. And I don't know if
Well,
I'm gonna get what I want, but
if people come forward and they want to do that, I'm willing to do it. But you know,
well, you know what? If one person that's listening has a story and they're like, Sacred Hearts Rising, what? Reach out to Brenda or reach out to me and I'll tell you about my journey
yeah,
because I have, I can't even, I, I promised myself I would write my memoir, the first one of the trilogy this year.
yeah,
I promised myself, and it was interesting when I sat down this morning to begin writing, and I'm like, wow, this feels good. But this is also terrifying because I don't know what to do next. And then I had to remind myself to simply write because the editing would come later. I mean, I worked with the most amazing editors through these processes. I worked with one in SHR2,
yeah,
Jen.
yeah,
I worked with a different one in SHR4,
yeah. Dawn.
Dawn, thank you.
Yeah,
And then I'm working with a different editor within the PTSD book where I wrote the CUNT chapter.
yeah,
I'm working with a fellow overseas. So I just get lots of help from all my angels,
yeah,
and they all teach me different ways. And then there's the one way that works best for me, which is an amalgamation of everything.
yeah. Well, you have to. You know, like I guess I guess you could call that when I wrote So How Was Your Day was almost like a mini memoir for me, but it was a collection of 40 stories that I just looked at life humorously. Like, you know, because
Well, humor is one of your greatest coping skills.
yeah, like, you
It,
know,
it,
you
it
just have
truly
to look
is.
at it. Yeah,
Yours
you
is
just have to
humor.
look at it.
Mine is acronyms, which are always sassy. I mean, I was born sassy and brassy. My mom, who's going through her change in cognizance
Yeah,
because her brain injury is different. You know, my mom doesn't have dementia. My mom doesn't have Alzheimer's. My mom has hardening of the scar
mhm,
in her brain.
yeah,
So there are days that we connect wonderfully. And I said to her, I says, Mom, I know that you understand that my potty mouth comes back from when I was 13.
Mhm.
And that's just the way that I am. She goes, oh, I know. And I
Yeah.
said, well, when did my independence begin? Because as we talk to our parents, we begin to hear our story, and it's so important to connect with them wherever they are, on whatever level
Yeah.
they are. And she said to me, she goes, well, you've always been like this since you began to speak,
Yeah.
walk. Because my first words were words like, why, myself, no. Surprise, 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 right?
Yeah. We are individuals from the very beginning. I mean, for me, it was when I was 5, and I decided at the age of 5 that I had to protect myself because nobody else was going to, and so I would get on my horse and I would escape before the abusers got there, and I would be gone, and I would go. We had a grazing lease that was probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 miles away from our house, but it was through the bush and through the back trails and things like that. And I would go there and I would spend all day at this grazing lease, and I would eat, the wild strawberries and things like that. I'm 5,
Yeah.
and there was bears and there was cougars there, but I had such a tremendous amount of support from my angels and my guides that they kept me safe. I mean, how I stayed safe, I have no idea how I stayed safe. And this went on for years, years and years and years. And I remember riding through the trail one time, and I'm sitting on the horse and I look up and there are bear claws on the tree.
Yeah.
And this is like 6 feet, 7 feet in the air, and I think, oh, that's interesting. And I just keep on going, not thinking, oh, turn around, because there's,
Well,
there's
because we
bear.
don't always know what we don't know till we know what we know. I know in my life as a rider, because I've been riding for decades, and I rode hot horses. I didn't know what a hot horse was. I just know that I wanted to ride. I wanted to ride the fastest horse there was because of my pattern with addiction that I didn't even know I had over here. And when we can commune with nature in whatever way we can, whether that is walking in the forest, riding a horse, soaking in a bathtub with water.
Yeah.
Nature comes in earth, wind, fire, and water. Find whichever works for you.
Yep. Yeah.
But
Mine was
find a
earth and
way, find that peace, because only you know what gives you peace.
yeah.
No one else can do it for you.
No. And I think, and that's where I learned the solitude, because the solitude was there, and I carried, and that's one thing that I do carry forward in my whole life is the solitude. I mean, I can be out here on our property and not see anybody for weeks.
Yeah.
Because I can go out and I can do things. I'm with the horses, I'm fencing, I'm doing whatever, I have to be busy. Like I have to be busy, but everything that I'm really fundamentally busy with is outside.
Right. And that's where you have that blessing in your life. Within my life, I didn't have the space. I was stuck in the city. I was stuck in so many of that. And it's funny because no matter where you look around my house, you'll find some form of a bead, whether it's around my neck or on my wrists. I mean, and I still wear the bracelet that you gave me.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I see it there, the little heart.
Yeah,
with the wings.
With the wings, because I can take these off no matter where I am and breathe in and breathe out with one bead. And I used to take my beads and hide in the bathroom. I used to hide in the shower. I used to hide long before I knew what I was doing. But I've always been a counter. And that goes way back to when I was a child, when I would sit in the dark and I would count 1, 2, 3, because I would wait for that person when I was playing hide and go seek to not find me.
Yeah. And it's funny because you talk about, you have your necklace on and you have your beads on. And for me, it's completely opposite, because I rarely wear a necklace, and I rarely wear anything on me, because I think subconsciously it reminds me of, for me, bondage.
Oh, and trust me, this wasn't easy. I wore scarves for years.
Yeah.
And everybody thought it was a fashion statement. And it wasn't. And then I couldn't wear anything on my neck. I couldn't wear anything on my arm. And if it wasn't for the divine grace of our darling Daphne, man.
Yeah. And I have lots of Daphne's things, and I can wear them and then I have to take them off.
Yeah.
And that's a pattern for me, probably a subconscious pattern from my marriage of being tied and bondage and things like that.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I never thought of it till you had mentioned that. And I went, I bet you that is,
I remember when the memory came up, I was in the kitchen. I was watching a movie. It had Tom Hanks in it, and he was he'd been stolen, abducted by pirates, and he came off of the submarine when he was rescued, and the hatch opened up, and they asked him his name, his birth date, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe because it brought me back to when Jarrett was in the accident and he couldn't remember. And then another doorway opened and I remembered the trauma of the hands on my throat, and I just bolted into the garage to talk to E. I always said, I'm going to talk to E, because I couldn't even say her name. I could not say Emily yet. All I could say was E. I'm having an E moment. I couldn't say Emily. And then Ralph came in and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no. And I had to tell him my truth because I needed to give him an exit. I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell you something that's really, really crazy and you can leave when I'm done.
Yeah. It was, and I think it's on Divine that I talked, because you just brought that up. I was watching a series, and it was called 9 Strangers. I don't know if anybody has watched it. It's on Amazon Prime.
I've seen it.
So it's Nicole Kidman and, a lot of those where they go to this retreat, and I had watched it for probably about 7, 8 episodes.
It's interesting.
And it was interesting till this one episode came up.
Yep.
And they were using hallucinating drugs on the patients.
Yep.
And they had these experiences. And this mother seen her son who had committed suicide.
Uh-huh.
And so she had a conversation with him.
Yep.
And she said to him, why? And he says, well, you know why. She says, no, I don't know why. Why? And he says, because we changed my inhaler and you read the side effects. And suicide was one of the side effects. And she says, I don't understand. He says, you knew that this drug would cause suicide. And you knew. So in essence, he blamed her for his death. Well, I got actually sick.
Oh.
And the feeling stuck to me, and I had to shut off the TV, and I put on Jumanji or something to just, but I carried that energy of the dead boy accusing his mother, and I know fundamentally that that's not right. That you're dead. For me, your deceased loved one's not going to come back and blame you for their suicide. Because, and I really had a hard time. It's
not possible. And that was the depiction of the movie and the character and the screenplay. And
I took that as Oh my God. Like this is just, and I really, I really had a hard time shaking that feeling. And I think that I don't know why that came. Could have had something to do with my ex being earthbound and the shit that he's caused. But I really had a
So
very
many
difficult
angles,
time.
so many angles to the unknown equation of why something happens now that you don't know about until later.
Yeah.
I mean, I started watching Maid. I don't know if you've seen that one. That's on Netflix. Gosh, I hope they're going to give us some funds from all the money that they make.
And MAID or MADE? Which Maid?
Maid, MAID. It's about a woman who goes through an abusive and a battered relationship.
Yeah.
Wow, to watch her journey. And it's based on a book, you know, and those scripts that are based on books, but then changed by the producer.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's so much within the story and so much that we can learn. Sometimes we can learn about the perspective of the bad guy so that we can understand the bad guy in our story, in our script.
Yeah. All I know is that I can't watch it now.
Not time.
Because of the trigger that scene of him attacking his mother and her just losing her shit. I mean, she just went into full-blown panic attack and was in the fetal position on the ground. And you know, his twin sister who went back and see him, she says, why did you do that? You know, because the mother was already blaming herself for his death, and the father's blaming himself for his death. And then he comes out and he said, so yeah, I'll never be able to watch the rest of the series because I was triggered. So
how can we possibly understand all the side effects of anything until we are fast forwarded into the future where we're told? So we cannot go backwards in time and blame ourselves for what we did when we didn't know any better. You know, and forgiveness. I mean, I remember when I was told how to work through forgiveness and working on the little ones within me.
Yeah.
And boy, I had no idea. And I was just like, you're crazy. And then years and years and years later, I worked on that because I was ready.
Yeah. For me, you know, when somebody says, well, you need to forgive them. No, I don't. I need to forgive myself for carrying their secret and their craps within me for so long. And that's when I truly understood, for me, what forgiveness was about. It wasn't forgiving them, it was forgiving myself and for carrying their dirty little secrets. And I just sent that all back to them and away we went. But yeah.
We're coming up to a new moon phase, and I love using fire. I remember when I first wrote a letter to my abuser and I burnt it.
I didn't burn mine. I sent it.
I burned mine. Oh no, I burned books because I wrote so many nasty letters. I mean, I was angry for a very long time. And I burned books because I didn't want to wake up dead and have my children read that. So I burned them. And I still use that. I still use that practice now where I will write a letter, because sometimes within the steps of recovery, when you go through the traditional 12 steps, it's not necessarily in your best interest to mail that letter.
Yeah.
Sometimes it needs to be just burned. And I still do that ceremony on full moons where I'll write to whatever person in my life I'm still struggling with. And then I cut the cords energetically. I mean, I do a whole series of steps, and I don't just do it in one day. I do a moon cycle thing for 7 days, and I change it every month for what I need.
Yeah, you have to. I remember the letter I wrote, I mailed it. It had, one line.
Wow.
It was a pretty powerful line that I wrote. but it
Oh,
was
I can't say I never sent letters, because I sent some really nasty letters.
sent. That's the one and only letter I ever really sent. And did that open up the shitstorm?
Well, and
But it needed to. It needed to.
I remember when I wrote In Heaven, which was supposed to be a testament for my daughter, and I was so excited, and I'm like, this is going to be wonderful. And then I wrote about being a cocaine crack, and then I had to go through the editorial process because Jen didn't know what carpet crawling was. I'm like, oh my God,
Oh, I know.
how can I write about carpet crawling without saying the word crack? Because I was still struggling with, what would everybody say? Nance, the crack addict, who is now a recovery coach. Oh, good Lord.
Well,
Ruin my career.
you have to have experiences, but that's just it. You have to have life experiences if you're going to coach somebody about a situation that you know about.
Absolutely. I mean,
I can no more coke. I can no more coach a crack addict than fly to the moon, because I don't have the experiences. I don't have what it's like. I can coach somebody on incest. I can coach somebody on rape. I can coach somebody on sexual abuse, mental, emotional abuse, all of that sort of stuff, because I've been there. But unless you've been there, you cannot coach it. I don't care who you are. You have to.
You know what? I agree with that. And I believe that there are good counselors and there are good coaches. There are good therapists, and I do use therapists because of SRT, spiritual response therapy. I can legit say therapy. I'm not a therapist. I'm pissed often, but I'm not a therapist. But I am a very, very powerful recovery coach, because I did recover from, I mean, been there, done that.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I'm no longer ashamed.
You can't be ashamed.
It's
It's made you who you are.
I refuse.
I can't be ashamed of what happened in my past, and you can't be ashamed, because if it didn't happen, you wouldn't be sitting where you are today. And for me, I know that if my past didn't happen, I wouldn't be here where I am today, because I look at my siblings as to where they're at, and it didn't happen to them. And you couldn't put me in their shoes, no matter, for no love or money, you couldn't put me in their shoes.
Well, the shoes that I wore were the shoes I was meant to wear during this lifetime, and the spillover from many lifetimes before, where I did not heal everything in my existence. Because Lord Thunder and Jesus, we don't have time. But this time around, I mean, I got 52 plus more years to go. Period. There is no doubt in my mind that I will continue my path for a very long time, because I have so much good work to do. Yeah.
And then that's just it, like I'm looking at my life and saying, okay, this has obviously happened in past lives, and this shit stops in this life. I need to learn the lessons in this life, because I'm really tired of going through this over and over and over. And that's where I just grabbed the bull by the horns and said, oh, that's it, I'm done. We're just going to learn the lessons we have to learn and get this figured out and become a positive influence in the world.
Absolutely. And to go down it with whatever path that you want. I mean, I've done hypnotherapy, I don't know, 3-6 times. I'm going to do it 3-6 more times, because there are parts of my life that are so repressed that I can't go back to when I was a toddler in my mind, but I can go there through hypnotherapy with I got skilled hypnotherapists that I work with here in Canada, across the world. I mean, I don't know how to do it, so I don't. I go to somebody who knows.
Who knows? Yeah, I've done the hypnotherapy. I've got, and where they've gone through past lives to figure out what is going on and things like that. So I think if I think a person needs to be open to whatever modality they can get into to try to figure out and unravel the strands of their life.
Absolutely. And it doesn't mean that you do only the psychology and only the wellness, wholeness, whatever all the other is defined as, the woo woo.
Yeah.
I combined both.
Yeah.
I went to see a psychologist.
Mhm.
She helped me because she said to me, "You're not depressed. You're
Yeah.
sad. You're very, very sad." If I would have told her my truth, I would have been considered depressed, but I couldn't yet.
Yeah.
And she helped me work with what it is that I wanted to do in a career. And I became a yoga teacher because of that.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
so working with both, I mean, we have two hands for a reason.
Oh yeah, you have to work with, I've done hypnotherapy, cellular release, REM, you name it, I've done it to try to, and it's come up, and that's just another step in my journey, another step in my journey, another step in my journey, and you
Absolutely.
have to be
Absolutely.
open
And
to it.
I mean, I still go to my OBGYN so that she can analyze the ultrasounds from the cysts that I still have.
Yeah.
That I am working through because surgery is not an option for me
Yeah.
for many reasons. And
Yeah.
I stand strong in that. Nope.
Yeah. So each person has to do what is right for them and what comes up for them to do.
And you know you're a nose, but sometimes you just keep on saying yes.
Yeah.
But when you get to a point where you say no, it may need to be a hell no. It may need to be a fuck no.
Yeah.
It may need to be bold.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it on. Bring on the bold. That is your warrior within you.
Yeah. No,
It
it is true. Very true.
truly is. Wow. This has
This,
been wonderful.
this has been a conversation all over the place.
I mean, this one might need to be part 1, 2, and 3. As an editor of my own productions, which I love to do, it's truly amazing what can become. And I mean, maybe there's a reason why I said 2023 earlier. Hey.
We could be going into that. That is for sure. That is for
We'll
sure.
look into that when the stars align, and the stars always do align. And if you're not sure about that, look up.
Oh yes, that is true. The stars do align, and you have to be open to it.
Look up into the sky, because the sky is always filled with stars and the ground always holds you strong.
Yes, it does.
Always.
Yes, it does.
So thank you, my dear friend. Oh, thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have a wonderful conversation with you.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Oh, we could go on for days, months, and years, and we will. That's the beauty of it. We will.
We could go on for a long time. Yes, we could.
Yeah. Yeah, we will. We will. We got great things to do, Missy.